I'm Bernice Ross, the CEO and President of BrokerageUpRealEstateCoach.com, and I'm delighted to have Zach Scher with us today. He is with Coldwell Banker. His team is, he has 20 people on his team, and he's only been in the business 4.5 years. That's Team Scher. He's with Coldwell Banker, Smithtown, and New York. We're delighted to have you with us today, Zach.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Zach, we have a fantastic show for our listeners today. Zach's going to be sharing with us about how he got his business to the top. He's been at this for 4.5 years. He's got 20 people on his team. So, Zach, first question I have for you. What did you do when you were a brand new agent to get your business off the ground? And talk to us about how long it took you to find your first deal and what you had to do to get that.
Sure. So I started by aligning myself with a great team. I wasn't, I didn't start my team right from day one. I joined a team and started learning from my mentor there. It took about, it's funny, in my first 5 months, I did 6 deals, which kind of in my mind already sparked that I could really do it. And from doing those deals, I was able to reinvest in myself, which is something that I always tell every new agent is invest in yourself. And what does that mean? So I started off by trying to get my name out there every way that I possibly could. Obviously, social media is huge, doing different things on there, even just, individual posts. There are things you can do that doesn't even cost any money, obviously.
So what did you do specifically? Kind of give us some details, because you've talked about investing in yourself.
Sure.
So what specific things did you do? And I want to know where you got those first 6 deals.
I mean, they came from a variety of sources. So obviously my team leader at the time was generating business for us. So, leads that were coming from all different places, from Zillow, from Realtor.com, from sign calls, things like that. So I was just working buyers. I was working any buyer that I possibly could get. I was taking renters, anything that I could potentially make a deal from. And even renters I was converting into buyers, which is a great tactic to work on. I love that,
I think we've got it. We've got to wait a minute. How did you convert those renters to buyers? That's something I want to know.
Yeah, sure. So it's actually, it's funny. So when you're working with a renter, if you think about it, they need 3 months up front. So a typical, and at least in my area, a typical 2-bedroom is around $2,000 or more a month. So 3 months of that's $6,000 plus. That's a potential down payment right there. So if they've got decent enough credit, there's plenty of programs out there, down payment assistance programs. You can include, seller concession to pay for closing costs. So I was able to convert renters that were planning on, going into, to rent for the next few years. And I showed them the numbers. It makes more sense to buy if you can afford it and you can make the numbers work. So early on, I was able to convert a few of the renter clients that I had into potential, purchasers, and they were able to buy a home. So in my first, 6 deals, if I remember correctly, I think 2 of them were renters that ended up buying instead.
So you said seller concessions. What did you do on that? And down payment assistance, I know downpaymentresource.com.
Sure.
What kinds of down payment assistance did you get for them? Was it like just doing FHA, or did you do more than that?
There were different lender programs that offered and different grants that were available to them. So the lender partners that I work with give every opportunity possible to buyers. So whether it's a different program or a grant that can help them with their down payment, there are lender credits that they can provide. So different programs provide assistance for those that, that can't maybe afford their entire down payment. And then on the seller concession side, if they don't have their closing costs, we incorporate it into the purchase price. So they're able to get that money at closing to help them pay, for all their closing costs. So really you can get to closing with not a ton of money in your pocket and actually still be able to do it.
Now, given that inventory's been so tight and you've got competition coming in with all cash, it's very competitive. How did you find the right properties for them?
So it's a combination of a few different things that you need to do. You need to see the inventory when it first hits the market. You can't be the 3rd, 4th, 5th person there to see it. You need to be the first, and you need to come in with a strong offer right away. In my market right now, if it's less than asking, you may as well not even go look at the property. So you have to know right away. You have to go in strong, and you have to put your best foot forward. So, when you're writing the offer, you need to be able to instill confidence to the seller that your buyer is extremely well qualified. So knowing all of the information about them, what they do for a living, how long they've been there, you can, share their credit, ratings and things like that if they've given you permission, and a lot of different ways to make the seller feel comfortable that that buyer is going to be able to get to the finish line at the end of the day.
And I think that's really an important topic, this idea about getting to the finish line. So how did you do that? You're bringing an offer to me on on my house. What would you say to me as the seller?
So, I mean, what I would show is, hey, my buyer's putting this much down. This is their offer. They're using my personal lender of choice. They're using my attorney. They're going to use my inspector. So there aren't a lot of intangibles out there. There's not any mysteries. We don't know if we're going to get, the inspector that does it as a hobby. We're not going to get the attorney that does it on the side. We're not going to get the mortgage lender that's from a completely different state. We're going to get people that are all local that I've worked with prior that I know will do a good job just as I will. And that's going to help make my client's offer that much stronger.
Now, it sounds to me like you are talking to sellers on Zoom or in person. Are you actually getting in front of them to present offers, or are you doing this more in the love letter from the buyer to the seller, which is an old tactic that's been around for 50 years, I think, or at least 40. I don't know. It's been around forever.
So predominantly it's dealing with the listing agent. We typically don't get the opportunity to present offers directly to the sellers. So it's really, and that's a big part of it too. And what I would recommend to a lot of agents getting started is get to know the bigger agents within your area. Go to a lot of networking events, because having someone be able to put a face to a name, not even just a picture, but actually having interactions with you will help, because then they'll say, I know this agent, I've dealt with them before, I've spoken to them, I know that they're, going to get the job done. But if it's the first time you're ever interacting with them when you're going to put an offer in, they don't know you. So when they go to their seller and try to relay the offer, they're going to have to say, I don't know the agent, but the buyers sound pretty well qualified. But if they know who you are, it really makes a big difference. And I can say that on the listing side of things, it makes a big difference for me when I know who I'm dealing with. So if it's an agent that I've had a deal with in the past, I've met before, I've had some sort of interaction with, it makes a big difference.
Well, you've hit on so many important points, because again, and this is one of the things, I don't care how miserable one of the agents is that you're dealing with, you never say anything bad about them.
Right.
And what happens is when and when the experienced agents, the people who are doing all the deals, know that you are someone who gets the deal done and you're out there and they know who you are, they're more likely to, that your offer is the one that's more likely to go through than someone they don't know, who's a part-timer, or someone who's got a reputation for being a pain to deal with, and that makes, one of the big takeaways for me always was, clients come and go. Those, I know people in the real estate business in Southern California, where I started in my 20s, that I've known for over 35 years. So, I mean, that's how long,
Yep.
the old timers are still around and they're still doing the deals.
Yeah. And I'm on an island. I'm on Long Island in New York. So we talk about it all the time. It's very small, even though it's geographically, it's pretty big. It's tough to know everybody, but everybody knows everybody, through some way, shape, or form. So our reputation, is very important in this industry. And I think that's what also helped catapult my team to where it is. A lot of people have dealt with me, and then my name, putting it on the team, then people dealing with my agents, they know that they can trust that, that level of quality of service will be there.
So, Zach, how do you have that conversation with your team members when they first come on? This business about having the integrity, having the reputation. How do you go about setting that, helping them set that mindset for their businesses?
Well, it's about making sure that they instill what we do as a brand, and branding is so important, especially in everything. And my background was in branding and marketing before I even got into real estate. So when I'm working with my new agents, I stress that level, that when you are, showing houses, when you're putting in offers, when you're going on listing appointments, you always have to be on your A game. You have to be able to show and put out there that you are, above and beyond, the top level, realtor within the area. And it's through a lot of different things. It's obviously, working ethically, treating everybody the exact same way, and providing top-notch service, always answering your phone. I can't tell you how much business that we get from other realtors who don't answer their phone. We get clients that come into open houses and say, hey, I've been working with a realtor for months, but they just never get back to me. They can't do anything for me. I'm out here searching by myself, and we try to help them as best we can. And it's just a matter of just being there. Yeah, half the goal, half the job is just being there and showing up, right? So it's important that they understand that you're really gonna set yourself apart. And it's sad to say this, but you're gonna set yourself apart from a majority of the realtors that are out there just by answering your phone, just by showing up on time and being who you say you are.
And let me give you a little tip for our listeners here. Did you know that half of every one of those buyer leads that come in, half of them have a house to sell before they can buy?
It's very true.
50%. And
Yep.
you're fine. You see that, it's like, you're talking about the renters. Well, you just heard how to convert them. I thought that was so brilliant. So what are you doing today for lead generation? What does that look like? What did you do when you first started? You talked about getting in your name out there in the social media, but what are the things that are driving leads for your business today?
Open houses tend to be one of our biggest lead generation sources. Obviously, because it gives you a one-on-one interaction with a buyer and, like you said before, a potential seller. So as you're going around and you're showing them this house, you're trying to sell the home, but you're also selling yourself. You want to make a connection with them so that you leave a lasting impression, so that when you follow up with them, the next day or even a few hours later, they remember you, they decide that they want to work with you. And it's so important. So that's such a warm lead that you can generate very easily, again, just by showing up. The internet leads are great. Obviously it can provide a bulk amount of leads that come in to work with, but they're cold. They're people that are looking for something, but you've never interacted with them before. So they're really just trying to get someone to show them a house. Whereas with an open house, they've already taken that next step. They're going out, they're looking, and now you've met them. So open houses are huge.
Well, I tell you what, I built my business on open houses. I hate it, every Sunday having to, everybody else is home watching the football games, but I tell you what, steady lead generator. And given what I know about social media now, it could have been a lot more effective because you could have been streaming the house live. There's so many things you can do at opens today that you can do back in the day. So, one of the things we talked about as we were prepping for today's show is this notion of being a market expert. And you talked about being first to market, or the first one who knows about the listings. How do you find out? What do you do to stay on top of it? Especially when the listing is, some other agents, maybe not at your company.
So it's important that, and again, having a team, first and foremost, we actually generate quite a bit of listings. So we're listing, and it's an average, probably somewhere between 3 to 5 houses per week. So when we're generating that much, which, we've, especially over the last few months, it's definitely picked up quite a bit. So in generating that much, we do know what's coming into the market first. But additionally, it's about, and this is something that any agent at any level can do, when you have a buyer that's looking for something specifically, set up alerts for those particular types of homes. So literally when it hits your MLS, you're the first to know about it. You're the first person to send it to your buyer, and you're the first one to get there. Because if you go the second, third, fourth day it's on the market, they're most likely already full price or above offers that you're going to be contending with. But if you're there within a few hours of it hitting the market and you're putting in that first offer, you have a much better chance of getting an accepted offer before all the other, before the floodgate opens, so to speak.
So Zach, that's such a great tip. It's really super easy to set up an alert, and just, when your MLS has a new listing, it may be a little bit of a pain that's going off all day long. But when you can see, oops, there's something just came on this price range. I've got 2 clients that fits this.
Yep.
Getting, do you call them or do you email them or do you text them? What do you generally do just to reach out? Do text messaging you find to be the most effective?
Yeah, for a client that we've been dealing with, text is usually easiest because if something comes out in the middle of the day and it's the work day, obviously, they might not be able to answer their phone. So usually what we do is we text, let them know, hey, this new house just came out. We send them a link so they can go take a look at it. And that's usually the most effective. But it really depends on the client. But I would say predominantly right now, texting is the easiest way to communicate with clients. I know for myself personally, even on my voicemail, I tell people, honestly, if you want the fastest response, text me just because we're all so busy and not even just realtors, but everybody. So a text is something that's quick, easy to respond to. So we've been finding that's the best way to communicate with a lot of our clients, but sometimes you do have to pick up the phone. Sometimes you do need to send an email. You have to be willing to do everything.
So Zach, when you were brand new in the business, this is the question every new agent dreads. How long have you been in the business? How did you handle that when you were brand new?
It that's a tough question. And I remember specifically my first client that I ever worked with, they asked me exactly that. So about 2 weeks into us looking at houses, they said, you seem like you've been doing this for a long time. How long have you been, in the business for? So I didn't want to lie to them, but I also didn't want them to realize that they were my first client. So basically what I had told them is, I've been doing it for a little while, and what I've built my business on is working hand in hand individually with my clients. So that's why it probably feels like I've been doing this for so long. So I wasn't lying, but at the same time, it was a little bit of an, extension of the truth. But what it really boils down to is what you can provide your client and, what they feel from you. So if you're doing the right job and you're doing what you need to do, it really doesn't matter how long you've been in the business, whether it's 1 week, 1 year, 50 years, it really doesn't matter. It's just about providing top-notch service.
Well, I tell you what, Zach, one of the things I advise agents, new agents, to say, especially if they're on a listing appointment, you ask, someone asks you how long you've been in the business, say not that long, but compare
Mhm.
my services to the other people that you're talking to and decide who can help you get your seller the highest possible price in the shortest amount of time. And that's when the training comes in to be so valuable, because you
That's
walk in
great.
with that list of, here are the 18 things I'm going to do to get your house sold. And they just like, the question doesn't come out, so that's,
Sure.
for me, that's always one of the huge takeaways. So to kind of wrap this up for today, what is your advice to those who are new in the business, as well as those who are more experienced about how to deal with today's market as we go forward?
I think for new agents, I would recommend definitely assessing what you want to do with your business. And a lot of times aligning yourself with a team is a great way to get started. It's a lot less, upfront cost for you. You have a team leader that will help generate leads, will come with you for listing appointments, will help you with buyers, will help you with all the questions that you have. But then for an experienced agent who's been doing it for a while, I would say, you got to look at your business and see where you want to go with it. Are you looking to expand? Are you looking to kind of continue on the path that you're at? And if you're expanding, certainly forming a team is a great way to help grow. That's a certain, a big reason of how I was able to grow so quickly. But if you're looking to kind of be that solo agent, it's really about, refining your craft and pivoting with the market. As the market changes and as the market shifts, you can't use the same tactics that you did before. And that's what we saw a lot coming into this market, the post-pandemic market, is a lot of people didn't really know how to adjust and how to change. And the ones that did, they're struggling right now. There are still some agents that talk to me. They're like, this is one of the worst years I've ever had. But for everyone else that's able to do it, this is by far the best year we've ever had. And most of the agents that were able to adjust, have the same feeling. So it's very important that if you're struggling right now, you have to take a hard look at your business and figure out what you're doing and adjust. You have to adjust and you have to change with this ever-changing market.
And great advice for, it's like if you're not changing and adapting to the market, you're out of business. This has been fantastic. We've been visiting with Zach Scher. He's based in Long Island, New York, with Coldwell Banker. And, going from 0 to a team of 20 in 4.5 years, kudos. I look forward to having you back on my show again, because you are a gold mine of great information. Thank you for being with us today, Zach.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.